reason there.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate you coming out tonight. We'll start the meeting with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again for coming. Councilwoman Ferris is sick tonight, so she won't be with us this evening. We'll start with the approval of the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? I'd like to move consent agenda item number 2E. Move that to new business. That's a resolution for the premise permit for charitable gambling. And then we need to remove B1. Visitors to the council, the Compass representative will not be here tonight. That's all I have right here. Teresa, anything else?
No.
Dan?
Nope.
No. Lonnie?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thanks.
Second it.
Thanks, Stan. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries.
Excuse me.
On to the consent agenda. Everything was in your packet. Any questions on the consent agenda? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Lonnie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor, state aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. On to B, visitors of the council. Number 1 will be Jim McAndrews.
Good evening.
Jim.
So recently, the fire department has received some donations from the people listed in your paperwork in front of you. Prairie Meadows was very generous in hosting a pancake breakfast, and then in light of recent events, we get a personal phone call and thank you from the property owner who made an additional donation. And then Glenn Navala and his family, the guy in town that hosts the Christmas light event, he put out his donation box this year and took a collection and forwarded it to us. So that was great. So we put our heads together and thought, what could we use that money for? And we're looking at purchasing 3 medical response bags and supplies. That would be for our other frontline trucks that we have that we don't currently have medical supplies on. And then a O2 airway response bag for our EMR truck. Right now we have all of our airway supplies and medical supplies in one bag, and then we have our hard suction and AED and another bag, and this would help consolidate it to just have 2 bags. It's, for obvious reasons, having all your airway supplies consolidated in one spot is very convenient. And then we're also looking at purchasing 3 gas monitors. One of those gas monitors goes right on your first in bag with your EMR equipment. Reason for that being, a lot of times people will call us, I have a headache, I'm not feeling well. A lot of times across the country, first responders have responded in similar situations, thinking they're going to just a simple medical call, and it turns out that there's CO present. CO is not, you can't smell it, can't taste it, it can be anywhere in the house. And then multi-gas monitors, they have a shelf life to them. The ones that we have had have expired, and that is used typically after a fire. You no longer need to wear your SCBA, but you need to be aware of gases present on the scene as you're cleaning up, mopping up, working around the scene.
So the single monitor for the CO.
Correct.
That's for the first person that goes in, so you just grab that when you go, or
It,
be in the truck?
basically, it just gets clipped right to the outside of the bag.
Okay,
and
so for
stays
first person
there.
that has the bag
Yep.
all the time.
Yeah, so if the bag goes in the house, the monitor's on there. If it detects the dangerous level of CO, then the alarm goes off.
Right.
Yep.
Cool. Any questions for?
Nope.
Alright,
Thank you, appreciate it. It's great, we have generous people in the community that are making these donations, so I'll make a motion to accept the, donation from the Relief Association to the fire department.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, Linda. Next, Joe Fitch.
Also, good evening. Just a quick additional note on some of the stuff that Jim had just gone over with the Relief Association. The pancake breakfast that Prairie Meadows put on raised roughly $1,700. That was donations from members of the community for it was a free will donation at the pancake breakfast. The Ability Resources LLC, I believe is what it was, the property owner, they had given us an additional $1,000 donation. And then Glenn Navala and his family was $618.18 to be exact is the donation that he gave us. So, so roughly right around $3,500 worth of equipment is what we were purchasing and donating with that money. So, on to my deal that I've got here. So every year we get a charitable gambling donation from the Dover Fire Department, their Relief Association, their gambling. They do pull tabs at Pete's Repeat. Last year, I believe we were roughly right around 6,600. The year before that, it was about 84.
Somewhere in there.
Right around there. This year was just a hair over $11,000. Is what they donated back to the city for the charitable donation that for the gambling that they had there at Pete's. We wanted to kind of just be in front of it to make sure that we're using the dollars in a way that the council sees fit. So upon your approval tonight, first you'd have to do the resolution to accept the donation. And then we would like the go-ahead to purchase approximately 30 new fire helmets with that money. The chief officers and myself got together when we learned of the money, basically put together a list of 13, 14 different items, brought that to our officer group, and they kind of whittled it down to 6 or 7. And then we brought that to our general meeting, and then at that point, we kind of whittled it down to a couple. One was the new helmets, the other was a combination tool for extrication. At that point, I made the decision that we were going to go with the helmets because I feel that the city can get the best, we're going to get the best use out of new helmets for the department than another piece of extrication equipment that would just be a benefit really to us. It's not a need. We have a full complement of extrication equipment. It would just be another tool basically in the toolbox for us. So so that's kind of why we're requesting the go-ahead to purchase the new helmets. So that is right now we're probably about 2/3 of our department is right in that 6 to 7 years with their helmet. 10 years is the replacement. NFPA says we should be replacing those every 10 years. We have been doing that with the purchase of new gear. It's just something that we can't really keep up on. We feel that this is a better way to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve on that. So, but obviously that's the decision for you guys to make. So, is there any questions, comments, or anything on
What does a helmet cost?
These helmets are roughly $360, I believe was the quote that we got.
We got a quote for 27 helmets, and it was
It's like
$9,700.
$9,700.
I'm just curious, I didn't know.
Yeah. We would probably buy 30, just because it's a round number, and we know we're hoping to put some more guys on this June. But I was having a conversation the other day, the helmets that we do currently have that are still good and usable, we would still use those in the future as we put as we put new members on, before they get a full complement of new turnout gear, they would get the stuff that's still good and should be thrown out, so.
Any questions for the chief?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we need to first have a motion to approve the resolution accepting the donation from the Dover Fire Department.
I'll move to accept the donation.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Klein, any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. The resolution passes unanimously. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 30 new helmets.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Dwayne. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Public forum, I didn't have any cards turned in, so we don't have anyone here. And now, we are gonna have a public hearing, regarding, just one second.
Small City.
Yeah, Salt City's grant. Wow, it's small. I didn't bring my glasses, so.
I got mine.
Okay.
I don't want mine.
Okay, so we're gonna open up the floor for a public hearing for anyone to comment on the Small Cities Development Grant, which we've communicated with the community on several times, so. I know you guys don't wanna say anything, 'cause you're here to answer questions there, but anybody else have anything they wanna ask? Okay, I will close the public hearing. Then we just have to pass resolution. Do you have an update for us on
I
anything
do have an
you wanna share
update.
with us?
Yep.
Just some,
Yep.
just some general information?
Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Karen Ducharme, the Administrative Development Director at Semstra, and with me I have Buffy Baranek, the Deputy Executive Director with Semstra. So, our purpose here for tonight was to answer any questions that the public may have on the application, which is part of the federal requirement. Also, to obtain approval of the local government resolution, which is the city's kind of nudge to put, for us to submit the application, and it's basically the city's, way of saying that they want to apply for these funds. So, just kind of a refresher of what the preliminary proposal entailed. We were applying for 20 owner-occupied, to rehab 20 owner-occupied units within the city, within a targeted area. And the target area map is in your packet, so if you have any questions on the boundaries or anything like that, I can address those. And then 7 commercial rehab units in the downtown district. After having the technical assistance call with the state in early January, one of the things they commented on was firming up the commercial because of the Davis-Bacon labor standards requirements. And then after I had that call, I had a call with Teresa and Stephanie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was
That's all right. No, that's
channeling another
perfect.
name, so
That's perfect.
thank you. And we decided that we were gonna drop the commercial and not jeopardize the entire application on that. Some considerations for doing that was that we had the MIF money that is being transferred to the small cities requirements. So even though we wouldn't apply for funding for commercial at this time, we could still assist interested property owners without jeopardizing the whole application. So, we've cut the commercial from the project and we're focusing strictly on the owner-occupied. We're still going after 20 units. However, we did make a slight change in the amount of owner-occupied, what the owner match requirement for those at 51 to 80% of the county median income. So instead of having to have 12% match, they have to have 10. So this area was also the area where all the street and sewer and water improvements were, so we have good cause for making that change without these even one of the Facebook posts I saw for the city was that, about the assessments and that kind of thing, so we can write to that effect in the application. So, we're bumping up the owner-occupied a little bit in terms of amount requested, so it's gonna be about $500 more per unit. So, The total request, the budget is in your, in your packet as well. The total request of small cities money is $517,500. We're leveraging $83,100, so for a total project cost of $600,600. And those are really the key changes to the, the commercial's a big change, but again, do we wanna jeopardize the entire application over one activity when we still have some resources within the city to help those commercial property owners? And then the change in the owner match requirement. Also, with the rental being a need in the city, we can come back and do commercial as part of that too in the future. So when we started surveying, we kind of saw this as a two-phase project, addressing the owner occupied and then addressing rental and commercial at a different time.
Is this a program that's so far funded annually, to where we come back in a year or two and apply for the commercial, and then a year or two later, we could apply for another area of residential if it was still available?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. That's how we're seeing this after our meetings with staff, city staff.
Okay. Any questions?
No?
So are you looking at both Target A and Target B on
Yes.
this map?
So we would focus first on target area A, and if there's still funds available after 12 months, we would open it up to target area B. So we give that first area shot. That was a higher need of the two areas, and then we would open it. So then when we do open it to area B, anybody in area A can still apply as well. So if they, lose a job or something like that, or their income changes.
So these that are identified as already interested, they were responded to a survey
Yes.
of some sort?
Yes, we did a citywide survey.
Okay.
Just a couple things in terms of the local government resolution. As part of that approval tonight, the city had agreed when we did the preliminary proposal to contribute $10,000. That is also part of this application. So when you act on that local government resolution tonight, you'll be approving that $10,000 as part of that, the contribution from the city to the app, which will be matched by this $5,000 from Centra.
Anything, Dan?
Good?
Thank you very much for making
Thanks.
the trip to share that with us. Appreciate it. Any other discussion on that? I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution to go forward with small city development grant application.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution passed unanimously, Linda. Thanks again, we do appreciate your help on
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you.
Sure, we'll see you again.
You are.
Yes.
Okay. On the committee reports, number one, the Ice Arena County Fair, July 17th to the 20th. We have an update on that.
Yes,
Thank
I do
you.
have an update. I did attend the county board meeting yesterday in the morning, and the county board decided that we would once again use the insulated floor to make the ice arena available during the county fair.
Okay, we had a arena committee meeting where we met with the county, the county were there, and then the fair board was making a pitch to want us to take the ice out of the arena. And I get it, if they had a use for it that would generate a lot of revenue, but I don't think they really understand that you just don't take the ice out, and then that Monday after the fair, you put the ice back in and you can skate on it that night.
It's not like making ice cubes, huh?
It's warm, it's humid, it's a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 endeavor to do it, plus the including the lost revenue, and so the commissioners kind of
Yep.
thought that was.
So the ice arena committee will meet again, the end of this month on Thursday, the 28th at 4 p.m. And, we had a specific request from the county to work with the fair board, maybe more closely than we've worked with them before. So we're open to that and help them in any way we can.
Perfect. All right, thanks for going that too soon. Old business, number one, adopt cogeneration rates.
Yeah,
Two.
so.
Oh, wait, did I set the page first?
Nope.
No,
Oh, I put it in the wrong one,
You're good.
sorry.
No,
Yep.
that's right.
Yep.
So adopt the cogeneration rates, that is in your
Yeah.
packet.
So we do have a program that would allow someone to install alternative energy, source and then net meter that back to the city. We don't currently have customers that are doing that, but in the event someone should apply, these would be our cogeneration rates based on our rate study that was completed maybe a year and a half ago now, but, annually, we have to adopt our cogeneration rates, so here they are.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve our cogeneration rates for 2019.
So moved.
Thanks, Dwayne. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lonnie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. They're adopted. Number 2, updated attorney contract. That came back from last time someone had a question on it. I think it was Dwayne.
Yeah, I did, and thank you, I appreciate the second look, and I'm okay with how it was reworded. Thank you.
Yep, you always wanna make sure you trust whatever lawyer,
Well,
you have the absolute right to choose your
Yeah.
lawyer, so
Yeah,
I have no problem with
there
that.
wasn't any issue with trust. It
Yeah.
was just- I'll make a motion to approve, the contract with the city attorney.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. G, new business, the gambling permit that was pulled off of the consent agenda. I guess there's, question is, this isn't replacing the current vendor that's there, it's adding a second vendor, and do we have anything in our ordinance that would allow for a second vendor or prohibit it?
The ordinances are very limited as far as how we regulate gambling. It really, incorporates the Minnesota statute that, and I don't see anything in there that would preclude the city from accepting, such a, or approving such a request.
Okay.
I also don't see anything in there that would give the city the authority to deny such a request.
Right, I guess I'm, thinking about sitting here, so almost puts us in a conflict of interest situation as a city. 'Cause the current vendor is donating their profits to a city department,
Okay.
and we say, no, you can't have competition. I don't know, I guess it's kind of a quasi question, is that, we say no, are we setting ourselves up for?
Well, it could be argued that it's arbitrary if you're approving everyone else's application and this one you're not, and the reason is because it would ultimately affect an organization within the city. I do have a concern that it could be challenged as being arbitrary.
Capricious, yeah.
I mean, we do it at the liquor store.
We limit,
We don't want to be able to sell off-sale liquor.
well, in that we're allowed because it's a municipal liquor store, so
Oh.
we have specific statutory authority to do that.
Do we know, is it like a separate box so people would know? I'm just throwing out I'm just asking questions, because when I go, like I go to the Legion and I'll buy some pull tabs, I know the Legion donates that back to the community, and I know hockey's in our community too, and Dover's come back, do I know that, hey, I'll play at this box, this going to this organization, and this box goes to this organization, or is it just commingled and they split it, or how is that?
I think they'd be separate,
Okay.
because they each have to maintain their own record keeping and reporting.
management.
Separate bank, whole.
Mhm.
Okay.
Isn't there a stipulation that to donate back a percentage of what their, intake is?
I'm not in what I just was quickly reading here,
Well,
I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah, there's a stat, with the charitable gambling, it has to support a charity. Basically, they get to take money out for paying wages for the people doing the thing and that, but.
They do, yeah.
And they pay rent to
It's
the location.
I guess my first question maybe should have been, it's an eligible organization.
Yes,
Okay.
that we have approved previously in other locations.
Okay.
I'm just thinking back to the archives and the cobwebs
Mhm.
from many years ago when I was in this position before, that I thought we had discussions about a certain stipulation of a percentage of their intake had to come back to the city.
it is in the or I don't know if it's in the state statute or in the city ordinance, but you're right on that. And I don't know if it has to come back to the city or it has to go into the community.
Okay.
And like youth hockey would come into the community.
Yep. Okay.
The Legion doesn't always come to the city, but it comes into the community. But there is, I did find that, in fact, I think I put it in the last packet, that when the Hayfield Community Club, it was actually in that packet, that ordinance was.
It's Minnesota statute 349.15, if you wanna look it up. It's use of gross profits. It's a Minnesota statute. I think that's the one that you're referring to, you're both referring to.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on that?
And there's a statute that deals with what information is required to be posted on POTAB, if you wanna look at that.
I know it's highly regulated, I just wanna make sure we weren't getting ourselves into a
Yep.
situation. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Based on the discussion, I don't think that we can restrict them, so I'll move to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Mayor's report, number one, well, I'll insert my own number one. I just wanted to publicly say, so we have it on tape here and everybody, that if you see anybody from the Public Works Department, let them know that, you know, I think they're doing a decent job with all the snow and ice that we've had here lately.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I said some of the chamber meetings, they had a lot, people were shaking their heads, but, they tend to get their, backsides chewed because there's snow from their plow gets in somebody's driveway and they don't think it should go there, so, you know, they're doing a pretty darn good job with the resources that we allow them to use, so appreciate that. And along with the first responders, fire department, police, I know they've had a pretty hectic, well, yesterday was pretty hectic, just from what I saw on Twitter and Facebook. It's a dangerous job out there when you can't see and people not driving with their lights on, so appreciate everything everybody's doing to keep the community safe and help people when they're in trouble. On to number one, appoint 3 city trustees to the Fire Relief Association. Right now, it's myself, Linda, and the fire chief. I have no problem doing it. I would appoint myself back there, Linda. Okay, so unless there's somebody
Make that
who
motion.
really, okay. And then answer the question, if there's somebody who really wants to do it, that I could find something else to do.
Agree.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Second?
Second it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Administrator's report. Anything, Teresa, to add that you already haven't?
No.
Okay. Engineer's report.
All right, well, thank you, Mayor and Council. First item of business today is the Trunk Highway 57 reconstruction project. We've kind of kicked off the design here, starting to hone in on some of these details, and kind of along the way before we're actually constructing something in 2021, we're looking for some direction and making sure we're on the right track here through the design process. So what that means is we have a recommendation memo from the Citizen Advisory Committee that we formed, ultimately laying out some of these details. Want you guys to review it today and concur with those directions or thoughts, or provide us some other direction. So with that, so I'll just kind of go through them all together. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to interrupt me. We can get into more detail, or obviously ask the questions at the end. So what this memo basically says is some pretty big scoping projects kind of out of the gate that we're looking for. The first one's the roadway typical section, some of the streetscaping elements, some of the street lighting, and then some wayfinding is ultimately what we're going to talk about. So I'll jump first and foremost to the roadway typical section, and that is the second attachment, J1B there in your council packet. So what you see there is 3 roadway sections, and what we're ultimately proposing, recommending, from the Citizen Advisory Committee is option number 2, which we're calling the center turn lane with sidewalk. How do we get to this point? If you may remember back from the comprehensive planning process, this was actually kind of a hot button topic in town, saying that everything north of Main Street needs to continue the center turn lane, similar to the center turn lane we currently have, just south of Main Street through the kind of shop clear area from City Hall here. So that's kind of where it started from, and we kind of took it and put pen to paper here, drew it up, and ultimately brought it to the public's attention. Maybe backing up a little bit, we have had 3 public meetings. One is just the general public, and then we had 2 with the homeowners actually along the corridor. Attended about 50 people total attended those 3 meetings. We have to ultimately have 2 of these citizen advisory committees meetings as we went to kind of get to this point. So we brought this forward to people. Actually, when we mailed to the homeowners, we actually told them in the letter that we were going to consider eliminating parking and providing the center turn lane. We had 1 person object throughout the time. So that's why we got to this point of making this recommendation. And again, it is a proposed center turn lane with no parking along the corridor. That was another item that we saw in the comprehensive planning process, was that the center turn lane was proposed or preferred without having parking along that corridor. So what that allows is some better left turning for the traffic that is north and southbound on 57. It actually narrows up the roadway slightly, because we're kind of trading 2 parking lanes for 1 center turn lane. So it's ultimately a shorter path across the street for pedestrian traffic. We would eliminate parking along both sides of the roadway, and we have recommended a 6-foot sidewalk along both sides of the roadway. Option 3 there, we did consider a concrete trail potentially on one side of the roadway, but the group came back to the 6-foot sidewalk. You may realize or understand that there is actually a 6-foot sidewalk along the fairgrounds. We'll be tying into that 6-foot sidewalk, so provide a nice 6-foot sidewalk contour, a corridor from 11th Street, which is a trail section that leads the middle school all the way down to our downtown. The group felt that was a sidewalk that extra foot actually means a lot. If you walk the trail, walk the sidewalk along the fairgrounds, that extra foot really feels a lot nicer to walk on. You can have 2 adults passing shoulder to shoulder along that corridor, so that's where the recommendation comes from. Ultimately, it'd be more use, is what the group felt, to that sidewalk corridor. So that's the roadway typical section. You guys want to ask any questions, or just want me to keep powering through some of the recommendations?
Brandon, is that 6 foot on the west side, is that to continue beyond 7th?
That's undecided. We'll probably bring that back into kind of a next round of recommendations here, maybe a month or 2 from now, on what we want to do there. Or I'm happy to take your comments now. It's kind of undefined or undecided if we continue sidewalk north of 7th up to 11th. We did discuss that with some of the homeowners. I don't think there was any objections to it. So that's something for the council to consider, or if you have thoughts on it right now, happy to obviously take those. My thought was that we'd put together more details and start putting all the lines on a big map and talk about every curb line, every sidewalk section, etc.
So adding the center turn lane actually narrows the roadway that's there now?
Correct. The roadway there now is about just over 45 feet. By having the center turn lane, it'd be about 41 feet.
And that's what it is out here by Shopko and the post
I think it might be slightly wider than that. It might have slightly wider shoulders off the driving lanes.
Alright.
I haven't measured that area. And then if we are right at the stoplight there, we might be wider than this 41 feet. And again, I need to work out some of these details with MnDOT, and we'll be back to have more of a formal discussion on some of these details as we go. But I need something to go off of for direction so I can start honing in on the design here. So we're more in conceptual form from everything north of kind of the stoplights.
Are you gonna carry the center turn lane all the way to 11th?
I think we are actually, is what our traffic engineers are recommending at this point. I want to vet that out a little bit more with MnDOT and the traffic engineers, but I think that's the direction we're going.
Maybe we can sneak it to past Dollar General. Even though it's past 11th out of the scope of the project, but
I agree.
I mean, we're gonna stop it.
So-
As you're doing your concept, that'd be something you'd sneak into the state without them knowing.
So that's actually something I was thinking about, is how the center turn lane worked with a potential future roundabout at 16th Street and potentially ending there. And if we have some commercial development west of 57, north of Dollar General, south of 16th Street, and all that, center turn lane may work with another city street in there. So we're definitely thinking about it, and I'll work the details out with MnDOT as we go.
All right, thank you.
So that's the roadway typical section we're recommending. So maybe I'll just keep moving on here unless you got other questions on that. So the second item there we're looking at is the streetscape, and that is attachment J1C in your council packet. That is currently what we currently have budgeted in the project scope. What we're calling that is a gateway to downtown streetscaping element. Essentially, it's providing a more of an aesthetically pleasing kind of entrance to the downtown to try to pull some traffic into those downtown areas, mask a little bit the overhead power lines, the railroad tracks, etc. It's kind of a mid-level of streetscaping, really streetscaping, go crazy with it and have all kinds of planters and bump outs and colored concrete. So we the group kind of came back to anything we do is going to look better, which I agree with, but here's an opportunity to provide some more aesthetically pleasing elements, and where do we go with that? So this is kind of where we're at, and again, this is kind of some high-level streetscaping conceptual ideas here. The next step, if you provide us direction to continue down this path, is putting another figure together to kind of lay out that retaining wall there. What are these potential gateway signs? What streetlights are we going to put in? Get to some more detail here and bring that back to the council for more of approval. Again, we need more of a, is this what we're thinking, or do we streetscape the entire corridor? And that is one of the things we considered was, everything north of Main Street, do we continue streetscaping? Do we put bump outs and colored concretes? Because again, the possibilities are really endless on what we can do. But the group thought that that was pretty heavily residential area. There wasn't a big need there. We are going to replace the the street lights to an underground system now. We have wooden telephone poles with street lights off. We'll make more of an aesthetically pleasing street light. So that is included in the project scope. But the planters and whatnot didn't really feel that fit the corridor. The other thing we talked about was kind of a north gateway. Do we have another north gateway to town? The group kind of, as we talked this through, ultimately concluded that 16th Street's going to be our gateway, assuming we move forward the project in the near future there. Specifically, if the currently preferred alternative of a roundabout at 16th Street fit, there may be some opportunities to provide some streetscaping planting into the roundabout there, because we will have some additional right-of-way there, along with the property that the city owns in the southeast corner of the intersection there. So that was kind of the group's discussion there. We did ultimately talk about the park and the fairgrounds. You know, we could potentially do some additional streetscaping there, but it never really got beyond kind of the level that we had planned here through the downtown gateway. Any questions on the streetscaping element? One item I do have on here, we do show a retaining wall, kind of the retaining wall at the liquor store parking lot there, which is municipally owned. It's owned by the city, pretty heavily used, kind of pushing that retaining wall back, incorporating that traffic cabinet that we'll be replacing there, getting some lights and some plantings kind of up on the top side of that retaining wall, potentially extending that retaining wall kind of towards the liquor store there. We've talked about the liquor store parking lot being included in that, so it's really where we're looking at putting more of our dollars in budget to really making that corner look nice.
I understand this is conceptual, but looking at the tree placements here versus the safety things with
Sure.
the railroad, you know, I'm sure there's distances that have to be met for safety.
Exactly. So that, if you provide us with the direction that this is what we're thinking, provide some more detail, that would be our next step, and we'd bring out the exact location of trees and where they're at, the details of the retaining wall, et cetera, back to the council for approval. But I agree, that was one of the committee's thoughts, or that was just too many trees, along with what they call pedestrian scaled lighting wasn't necessarily an option that the group thought was appropriate there. Same thing with what we call the gateway sign with vertical elements in there. The discussion was we put like a downtown sign or a Casson sign there, kind of block letters, and the group was a little uneasy about that, didn't really have a strong thought on that, on incorporating something like that. So that's maybe something that we're gonna hash out at the committee level, and again, bring it back to the council for further discussion and kind of review and approval, then we'll jump forward to final design. So that's the streetscaping element. I'll just keep moving on here. So street lights, one of the elements that we did talk about was street lights there. The group's consensus was that we look at the street lights along Main Street and extend them through the intersection, potentially to the south to County 34 there, and maybe one block to the north through the commercial corridor along 57, just we have some nice contiguous lights at the time to Main Street. And then from the First Street north, as it turns into residential, have more of a residential light, maybe a different light there. Not going too overboard with kind of what we have shown on here with these pedestrian scale lighting, but the one at least every block, maybe a mid-block, and look at more of the lighting placement, and again, bring that back to the council for final approval. We also talked about potentially the residential lighting along 57 would tie into the 16th Street. The group kind of like the 16th Street lighting that's currently in there. So we are going to look at potentially having that through the residential corridor. But again, we'll bring that back as we get more details. Want to make sure we're not going down the wrong path of what the council wants to see for scope in this project. And then lastly is wayfinding examples. That is another attachment in your council packet. So what we have in the council packet there is some potential examples of wayfinding. The group ultimately, when we started talking about the downtown concept, they said, how do we get more wayfinding in there? And Charlie Bradford, Public Works Director, says, well, good luck, they took down all our signs we had along 57. So it was something that was at least thought of before to have wayfinding through the corridor. So I circled back with MnDOT, and I think the direction that we're asking to go tonight is to discuss with MnDOT, do we have some unique wayfinding signs, not only in this corridor, but potentially other areas in town. We pave 16th Street coming in from the east. Do we have where the schools are, where downtown is, more of a citywide comprehensive plan? So MnDOT will allow wayfinding as long as we have this plan, and there's some strict requirements here. You can see these examples. A lot of them are from Iowa. They're maybe a little loosey on what they will allow for wayfinding signs, but I think generally we can put together more of a comprehensive plan to have some unique wayfinding in town. So it's just not a plain block letter like you'd see along the interstate. We could have like a Casson logo on the top, or maybe the water tower even, maybe potentially into the logo. But we'll bring that back once we got more of an idea from MnDOT on what we can and can't do.
Want to kind of be careful with too much too. You've been to Spencer, Iowa. There's so many signs that it takes away from the downtown. It really does.
Yeah, and that's something. The other thing is these signs will only be public places. We can't have a commercial business. It'll be more downtown,
right.
Ice Arena, North Park, library, etc. Yeah, the public elements. The schools. I've heard from other engineers that are in my office from other towns. And I was getting confused by your schools. I don't know where they're at. You know,
Ice Arena.
Yeah, Ice Arena is very difficult to find. So those are what the group thought would be nice to add. Alana, to your point, you're right. I mean, we can get too carried away here with wayfinding, but that's generally what. And MnDOT's pretty restrictive on that. And we're not going to. It's not going to be like we're just not going to get to that point because MnDOT just doesn't allow it. So,
right.
But that was the group thought was something interesting that they can incorporate. And again, these are wayfinding signs from a car level. You made a lot of wayfinding or kind of more pedestrian levels. The group didn't really think that was too important. Thought kind of if you're a pedestrian in town, you kind of already know where you're going. It was more of the outside traffic that they thought was important. So I don't have the answers or say that we're going to incorporate something. I need to circle back with MnDOT and define what they call their comprehensive citywide plan for unique wayfinding signs and report back to the council. I just want to make sure you want us to go down that path or not go down that path, I guess is where we're at tonight. So that's kind of what we talked about. Again, this is more of a, are we going down the right path? Because as we develop the scope of this project, we're putting more and more time and getting more and more details into the project, but we definitely need some direction on what way you guys as a council want to go.
I like what you've done so far.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the next step. I have nothing, no negative things about what you've got so far, except for the logo on the signs. We should be able to discuss that at some point.
We won't bring up the comment, right, Brandon?
Which one?
Your statute.
Oh. Yeah, if you go back to the streetscape base project there, we have a gateway sign with vertical elements, and one of the examples was kind of this tall, 10-foot tall rusty kind of iron public art, and I said, well, it could be a comet shooting out from the intersection at Main Street, a 10-foot tall comet with like blue up lighting to it. And group didn't like it.
I don't know if I
No
can see
traction.
that.
I haven't, yeah.
Let the school be the comment.
We get like a miniature water tower there or something, I suppose, too. Possibilities around this when we're
Hey,
streetscaping.
give us less
so.
than the $4 million on the real water tower, and we
Just
don't
take the
have to
bowl
do
down
that.
and set it over there, there you go. So yeah, like I said, the possibilities are in this, I mean, I bring those up because, you know, it might be a wild idea, you know, having a water tower there, or, you know, a 10-foot tall comet shooting out of a planter across your highway, but again, when it comes to streetscaping and kind of public art and gateway elements, the possibilities are endless. So I want, you know, people to make sure we've asked ourselves the question, we don't want that. Because again, here's your opportunity, we have a blank canvas, we're tearing up your, you know, gateway to downtown, so what do we build back?
I think you're on the right path with the landscaping, the small retaining wall, make what we have a little bit better. I think the shooting comet, maybe we could take those dollars elsewhere, just from a dollars and cents thing. It's a great idea, it's just,
Provide us direction.
yeah, the direction I would have on it, no, but, sorry, Brandon.
That's why I didn't bring it back up.
Okay. Yeah, I had to. Thank you for that update.
Yeah.
And we'll get the next update. when you-
Yeah, I like the direction, north of First Street to Seventh, that's pretty dark in there with their current lighting, so bringing those lights down into a more pedestrian level and having illuminated that corridor would certainly look much nicer than what it
Yes,
currently does.
somewhere between where we're at now and Stewartville, but not
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
to Stewartville.
That's
Exactly.
been brought up.
You're the type of person to bring up Stewartville.
It's
and that
funny
would
how
be
that's
one of
been
the
brought
things.
up already.
And Stephanie from CDA is from Stewartville, so tread lightly.
Well, I think it's sort of I remember when they first put those in, it was like a
They took-
runway.
Well,
Well, then
part of those out.
They doubled them.
Yeah.
After they put them in.
And
And they took
doubled
them back out.
Right.
The folks from Stewartville loved it.
they did.
They really
Puts
do,
them on the
yeah.
map.
Carry the
They
turn
love
lane
it.
as far as you can north.
And I think that's the direction we're going on, just gotta make sure from a traffic engineering perspective.
Right, no,
and
I
safety
get it,
perspective, we can
I
do
get it.
So, So, Dwayne, to go back to your point, with the lighting, so as part of the project, all the lighting's coming out, we're starting over, so we'll do a lighting plan and start looking at that and see what the appropriate level of lighting. So I actually heard that from some of the citizens, that they would have liked to have seen the corridor lit up better, so.
Yeah.
That's something that we will incorporate in the plan, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, I think there's a second item, notice of annual distribution. So that's an attachment, J2 in your council packet. This is just an FYI for the council. This allocation is the municipal state aid money that we received from MnDOT. You can see we have about $293,000 a year comes in, because we are a municipal state aid city, a town of over 5,000. Every town in the state receives this allocation based on traffic needs and how your traffic roadway system is, and then ultimately your populations, like Rochester would get significantly more than Casson. That what we currently have allocated, the $220,000 goes into the bank for us to use on future roadway projects. That $73,000 goes into the city's budget for street maintenance projects. So the city has allocated that to maintenance, so we're gonna incorporate that into our mill and overlay projects, crack filling, chip sealing projects that we work out in Public Works and ultimately constructing every year. So, again, more of an FYI that money is coming in from MnDOT. Big picture where we're at on that, again, it's $220,000 pretty much every year continuously, and we just kind of spend it. It's sitting in the bank waiting for us. We have had some municipal state projects. Commerce Drive was one of them. 16th Street East, you know, we had that $1 million grant from MnDOT, which was separate than this. I think we're about another $600,000 or $700,000 is gonna be a local share. We're actually gonna dip into that fund and use this money to offset that cost. I think right now with this, we'll be just, we might be like 1.2 million now, into our municipal state aid, bank, if you will, or funds that are available. We haven't really allocated the kind of the next project after 16th Street, East. We've talked about maybe 16th Street going west of the roundabout. That's obviously gonna be pretty costly to pull that project off, so we may be talking about that maybe long term, but just as an FYI where we're at, so.
Perfect. Pat, can I just ask, you said something about chip sealing, the $73,000 goes to that. On the same subject, do you guys have any educational pieces that we could get to people when we're gonna chip seal the street in front of their house? Cause it's really a misconception. I mean, for those that were on the council at that, it was a pain in the butt last year getting calls and emails and visits at home, and what do we destroy their street for, we put all this gravel on their street, is there anything we could go hang on their door or get to them to say, hey, here's the process?
And we definitely put some on the website too, it would be easy.
Something to just educate them that this is okay, and it's not
Right.
wrecking your street, and.
But maybe something to include, you are going to sweep the street after, you know, such a period of time, because they don't know that either. They think that's the way little Johnny is gonna ride his bike and crash.
Yeah, no, it's definitely we can do.
Just something, okay,
Yeah.
that's just speak back, I had to call the other day, cause now there's some chips in people's yards with the snow plows.
Yeah.
I got asked if I was gonna bring my rake and a bucket over in the spring, I said no, so, anyway, thank you.
You didn't volunteer?
Thanks, Brandon, appreciate it.
Yeah, that was it.
Sounds like it's been a rough week.
Personnel, updated personnel handbook, Letter K.
So we have worked on some updates to the personnel handbook. I think, this is a first review of it. We do have a discussion we need to have with the city attorney regarding, drug testing and how that's covered in the handbook, or which employees that will cover, and how to cover one group of employees and not another, so we have some more discussion to have. One thing that had been taken out of the handbook that we put back in was the section on handguns, which I think is 20 or section 20.
I think that is what it is.
20 or 21, somewhere in there, had been missing from the handbook. We've inserted that back in there, so, that you'll see is new. Anything that's bolded is where there was a change. If you see something that you're concerned about, let us know, but we will bring this back for approval once we work through the, drug testing.
Has it all been tested for our bargaining agreements
Yes.
also?
Yeah.
So we aren't changing some language here that
Yeah.
was negotiated that we can't, okay, thank you.
Yep, yep.
There's a lot of references to, if you're a union employee, consult your union contract.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, we just meant, because some of
Yep.
the stuff's negotiated, we can't just
Right.
Yeah,
change it because we don't
exactly.
like it, okay.
Yep.
Fine.
Yep,
I
exactly.
had just one comment, and this
Yeah.
is just extremely minor. But when we talk about weapons, and we specifically identified switchblade knives, or any knife that can be used as a weapon.
Oh, in definitions?
Yeah, I just wonder, much like the TSA or whatever, they limit blade length or something like that in which you can carry, whether that, something like that should be included in this. So any knife over, 4 or 5 inches, or I don't know what, Joe?
Well, in reviewing this, CJ, do you have yours, Jim, do you have yours? We are city employees, and just about every single one of my firefighters carries a knife like this.
Because you have to for your job, yeah.
Yeah, so if there has to be an exception, or because it's.
It'd be like the handgun exception for the police department.
Yeah.
It
You know,
doesn't, it's part of your function as a city
Well, I
employee, I would.
realize that.
But we don't want to.
We get treated both ways, so I just wanna make sure we're covering the basis on that, so.
Okay, right, gotcha.
What is the length of the blade on your knife?
I'm not exactly sure, but
They're all different.
it's a multi-function tool. It's got a seatbelt airbag cutter. It's got a tool on it specifically for breaking glass, and then, of course, it's a.
So 3-inch blade.
Yeah.
Three
It's
something.
just, I mean, it's more heavy duty.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
specifically designed for taking apart a
Yeah,
car seat
yeah, yeah.
or whatever. you know.
That makes sense. All right, something to be aware of though, when we do it, that we are
Yep.
limiting the people that have
Yep.
to use the
You know,
stuff.
I just see
Okay,
some
thank
of
you.
our park guys walking around with a
Machete?
Bowie knife or machete strapped to their leg.
Maybe the mayor.
All
All right,
right, we got
thank you,
we
so
got
everybody
you.
review that, and if
Yes.
there's any questions, bring them back to the next meeting and we'll
Yep.
have discussion about it.
Exactly.
Okay, we're gonna close, the meeting now to have a discussion with the city attorney regarding some litigation and a property discussion. And which ones of these will be recorded and which ones won't be?
The litigation will not be
Okay.
recorded. The property discussion will be recorded.
Okay. And we'll open the meeting when we are done.
Okay.
So we'll turn the recorder off for the first part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It'll be my job to come back on.
Yes.
Okay. What's that?
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get back to you on that water tower.